Hello everyone and welcome to the CoSM Podcast. My name is Tyler James Berger and this episode features artist Allyson Grey, co-founder of CoSM. In her long-running blog, Ask Allyson About Art and Life, she shares her insights with artists seeking practical observations from a wise woman. In this episode, Allyson and I discuss her experience of parenthood from the perspective of an artist. So, Allyson, throughout your life, you have balanced many strong identities as an artist, as a wife, and as a mother. And a lot of young female artists, but all artists, face a dilemma when it comes to their work-life balance, surrounding whether or not to have children and start a family. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey with the decision to become a mother?
Yeah. Well, I put off motherhood until I was 36, and I was pregnant throughout. I got pregnant in February, so I was pregnant and had my baby at the end of that year. And I also, I think we had made a decision to have one child. I mean, before I got pregnant, I worked. And I worked outside of the home for, quite some years. And then Alex and I went into business together. So our home base was our studio, but that was later. And so I had those years of, self-actualizing, where I was self-realizing my power and my ability as a leader and whatever, and an earner. And I got to my 30s, mid-30s, I think I probably started to think that it would be a shame for me to miss the parent training. It was a life training in which there was this component part, the parent training, that I felt I didn't want to miss out on. And I do say to people, if you think that it's something you may not want to miss out on, don't miss out on it. It is worth it. Mm-hmm. It's completely worth it. It also is only a piece of your life. It isn't like all of your life unless you say so. And I think that's what it is. It takes up a lot of space in your life for a time. Yeah. But that was about the decision that I made. I mean, I decided that I wanted to have a parent training at least once. I wasn't sure if it would be more than once, but I was older. So I enrolled Alex. I had to enroll Alex, who also was concerned. And I have to say, a lot of men, too, are concerned about how that new responsibility and relationship is going to, occupy their life and time. How much are they going to be willing to give to it? Are they going to be good enough at it? That kind of thing. So I had to enroll Alex, and I can tell this audience that happened on the top of Mount Tremper in Woodstock on MDMA. Because I planned it. I had an agenda. I wanted to talk to Alex about this very important thing, and I knew it wasn't going to be easy for him to give into, because we were traveling, we were working jobs that were very interesting, and we were also performing. So my art life always included painting and performance, which I consider to be social sculpture. It's like when you perform, you bring together a lot of mixed media elements and music and art and dance and theater and, props and costumes and makeup and everything, and you bring it together. And Alex and I did this, for a lot of years before our daughter was born, or before we decided to get pregnant. We did our one performance we did was when I was pregnant, very pregnant. And then the next performance we did with Xena. So, I did a piece called a Harvest piece, where we had a pageant. It was at the Islip Art Museum, and we had tiki torches. We did it after dark. It was like my birth piece. I was 8 months pregnant, and we built the soul furnace. And we brought to the soul furnace all of the wood and debris that came from our apartment in Brooklyn that we used and left over from making Zena's room, because we were building. Like a lot of people who are having babies, build. I mean, it's just this incredible percentage of people who decide to renovate and move and everything around having a baby. So we did that. We renovated half of our apartment. Our friend Tate Ching did it for us and made a room for Zena. And but in that performance, it was a harvest performance. And then we burnt all that stuff in a soul furnace. And after that, we did a performance after she was born. When her last nursing was the performance Goddess in front of Lincoln Center. I always like to say that she performed first in front of Lincoln Center. I think that's sort of telling, but really, really well. I mean, really, really did a great job. So, but anyway, that was, I included parenthood in my art. I included parenthood in my art life and in my work life, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will ask themselves, like, if I have a child, will I still be able to be an artist?
Right.
And it sounds like you kind of integrated that into your art as well as you could. And
well, if you want to be a parent and be an artist, you just have to say so and then do it. It's not like, oh, it just happens or it doesn't happen. You make it happen. You have to determine that it's a priority for your life to continue being an artist, and of course, it's well worth it. And if you do give it up for a time, it doesn't mean you have to give it up forever. You may find that your life is too stressful and too demanding, but if you're watching TV, why can't you have like a sketchbook on your lap and doodle or draw? The difference between doodling and drawing is just how seriously you take it. And that can be a matter of the materials that you use, the quality of the materials that you use, and the seriousness that you give it. You can have a lap desk, on your lap with a nice drawing pencil and a nice, piece of Strathmore 4-ply or something. You can have something nice in front of you to work on and take it more seriously, but still make it work with your life. Mm-hmm. I never go anywhere that I don't have, some way of making art.
You can keep your creativity alive no matter what.
You can draw and paint on a plane.
Yeah.
You can take a little thing with you in your purse. It depends on how much it means to you. And so the difference between deciding to be a mother and giving up art, and you're going to want your art, believe me. You don't want to give up your art when you're a mother. And you don't want to give up motherhood because of your art. No, that would be terrible. It's part of your life experience. It's not different. It's integral. It's all things working together. And if you feel like it's going to be too much for you, expand to include. That's it. You just get bigger, and put less time between things. You have more things to do. That's all. Mm-hmm. And you have to make art. And your child will so benefit from you being an artist because they see that you take your work seriously and that you're striving and that you're working on stuff and you may be good enough yet, or you're discontented with your project or whatever, but you're working on it. These are things that they carry with them into their life. You're their mentor. Mm-hmm. And they learn that you can not be perfect and it's still evolving, and they learn all this. They just absorb that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've said before that being a mother is one of the most challenging things you've ever done, but also one of the most rewarding things.
Oh, yeah.
What were some of the most challenging aspects about motherhood, and what were the most rewarding things?
Well, the thing I would say is that when you are becoming a mother, there's the time challenges, obviously, but the challenge of a child is greatest in the first 3 years. Okay? So they're physically very demanding the first 3 years. And if you don't give them those first 3 years, they may end up with a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon. You know what I mean? if they're in full-time daycare. You know what I'm saying? I know people like this, overachievers. So don't do it the way you feel it works for you. I know people whose jobs are so important to them that they had to, give their child over to full-time daycare at 6 weeks because there's no maternity leave in our country after 6 weeks. So, but that child got a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon and his first job was in San Francisco, peachy, So, people end up being overachievers too. And, it's really, how good a mother are you when you're there? How good a father are you when you're there? Do you make time for them, even though your job is very important to you? The first 3 years are the most demanding. They need they want you to look at them at all times. They're going to hold your face to them, so that they want your attention. So you either decide, like I did. My decision was, I had worked out my life so that I could work at home with Alex in those last years before I got pregnant. I really worked in the workplace in museums and at the Art Directors Club. I worked for people, but then I worked with Alex at home, and that was perfect because I could, flow, integral, put my work life, my baby life. But the first 3 years is very demanding. I never gave up painting, though. I never gave up art. There was always an hour or two a day, every day. It's a practice that you don't want to give up, once you really get addicted to it. It's too delicious. Why would you give up anything so delicious? But I also included my daughter in, Alex included our daughter in our art life and enriched her with our art life. First of all, by the time she was 2, she had a sketchbook of her own. Okay, don't expect your children to use a piece of scrap paper or a napkin at a restaurant. Bring a little sketchbook in your bag and some fun things, like maybe, a few little colors even. A pencil is okay and a pen is nice, but, a little package of colors in your bag. It's part of, what they need by the time they're 2. When you're waiting for food at the restaurant, they should be creating. And that's what we were very, very intentional with Zena, was that it wasn't like we said it, it was just that she was always expected to be creative. Mm-hmm. And so she was, and she had amazing drawings all through her life, and art's been a great comfort and training for her. And so she saw us taking out our sketchbooks too. She's not going to have a sketchbook?
And that must have been incredibly rewarding to see your child kind of unfold creatively.
Not only that, but I think since the time she was at least in 3rd, 2nd grade, something like this, every Friday we went to either the Met or the Natural History Museum to draw with our drawing materials, and she would bring her friends. So we would have this little group of people that would go. And there are places in our world and in your world where you can go and draw. Well, you don't have to have a museum. We happen to be in the city, but in the country, you can go to the woods, or you can go to inside somewhere that's interesting, a basement that has lots of pipes in it. We had to do drawing projects like this in art school. You just go places where drawing is an opportunity, or you make an opportunity to draw in your own home. So anyway, we went every week to a place, and we always made it fun. Mm-hmm. We made going to museums really fun because we would start with the gift shop, or you start with the food. Then you go to the gift shop. Then you go to the art, and you all sit down. You make sure you have time, but you all sit down and you draw the dodo bird and the whales and the different animals, or the things in the African collection or the Egyptian collection. There's certain museums that won't let you do that, but you find out where they will, or if they have times where they will, or you find a place where you can draw. We took Zena to nude figure drawing in Woodstock by the time she was 10. We would go on Saturday and pay for a figure drawing 3 hours, and we would just go draw the figure. And so it was part of her life. It wasn't, like we did it separate from her. We did it separate from her too, but yeah, artist is who she became.
Yeah. Now, something that is fascinating about motherhood to me, something that I'll never experience, is the idea of birth being a portal for a new soul to enter the world. And I'm curious about how you kind of thought about motherhood as a spiritual practice or as kind of like a spiritual movement in your life.
Well, I mean, Alex and I had a vision that we would be birthing a great teacher. Alex had the vision. It was a Buddhist spirit that said we were going to have a teacher. So we always thought of Zena as our teacher. I mean, I think that, you have to be their teacher too. You can't, get that too mixed up, because that could be, not a good thing either. But you have to realize that it's your transformation that is really, at stake here. Like, how good a person can you be? How can you improve yourself to be a better mother, to be a better wife, to be a better artist, So, you want to be better in all the areas of your life. So being a parent is an incredible training for, all sorts of things, noticing all the icky stuff about yourself. It just rubs off on them, or it rubs them the wrong way. And they're just not, kind of polite about it at all. So you really are confronted with yourself. And in that way, it's a tremendous training, very much like we would imagine, kind of a Buddhist monastery or practice where the teacher goes, no, you don't be that way. And you realize so quickly, the feedback is so quick from being a mother.
Can you speak more to like any kind of meditations or visualization practices that you did like pre-conception, or maybe even while you were pregnant? Is there any kind of spiritual practice that you did kind of around this idea of bringing a new person into the world?
So it's so important to, be peaceful, I think, if you can be during your pregnancy. And it's so important to take care of yourself. So if spiritual practice makes it so that you're more peaceful and you're taking care of yourself, it is going to be better for the baby. There's no doubt about it. At the same time, it's not about you. It's about them. As soon as they're born, it's about them. I mean, you're about you, but they're about them. And so you have to give over your life. All of your pictures of the way it's going to be are blown. I mean, you may think it's going to be a certain way, and it won't be that way. And that's part of the spiritual practice of it. You know what I mean? It's realizing and not being attached to your pictures of the way you thought it would be.
Yeah, Khalil Gibran said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. And though they come through you, they belong not to you." There's a really great passage in the Prophet
That's fabulous,
about that.
Tyler. No, that is so good because they are moving away from you from the minute they push themselves out. You help them push themselves out.
Yeah.
But, they push themselves out and then they keep going, okay? First, they can only lift up this far. Then they can roll over. And then they can, start taking those steps. And, their whole life long is them, kind of individuating, becoming who they are, being their own person. And you, as a parent, have the incredible honor of watching it unfold. I mean, the fact that, I had a feeling that because I was older, I was only going to have one opportunity to watch it unfold. And I'm sure that the watching of siblings is a fun thing too. I don't denigrate anybody who feels that they want to have more than one. I'm just telling you, it's okay if you only have one. It works out really well. There's a lot of people having only one today. If you feel in any way, like you don't know if you could handle it. And the other thing I wanted to say on this particular podcast is that my mother told me, and a lot of people's mothers tell them this, that that having a baby brings money. It's like everybody worries about money. But the baby brings the money. Don't forget the baby brings money, because you'll be shocked to see how your income and your if you put your mind to it, you will be able to earn enough and more when you have the baby. I mean, if you're not frugal and if you spend a lot on yourself, that's another thing. But if you really do, want to make it work, you work harder, you work smarter, and I don't know, if it was true for Alex and I anyway. We didn't have anything, a few $100s. We didn't have much, But when we met each other, and then we earned and we added, and it all worked out.
Well, in your discussion with Duncan Trussell on the CoSM Podcast, you talked a little bit about him being a new father, and he brought up this saying, "A baby comes with a sandwich under its arm."
Ah, that's a good one.
Right? So
That's
it's this idea that we kind of think of having a child as an expense, but it's also a great form of wealth. It also brings wealth to you.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. Yeah, totally.
No, it is. It's an investment in your own, evolution and maturity too. I mean, to be able to take care of another person and have them thrive and have them succeed and have them, have a sense of self-respect and self-loving. You can't get any better than that. And if you keep that in your spiritual practice, that's your goal for them, then you'll listen to them. You'll listen to them. And listen, I want to tell you the best parenting book that I read. And look, I was a parent a long time ago, okay? I mean, I'm still parenting. You're always parenting when you have a child. But I parent less and listen more. The book that I love for parents, and I would have it by the time the child is 2, and I had it by my bedside, was How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. The Chaim Gnat work that these 2 authors did was work that my mother learned, and I had all those books on my shelf, Chaim Gnat, from when I was young, and I read them, and then I read the How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk, they'll put it on the screen who it's by, because I can't remember, but it's too long ago. But I had a copy on my bedside. I read it all through, and then I could open to any page and learn things and remind myself really quickly and kind of like easily how to talk so they would listen. That's what you really want. You want them to hear your concern, you want them to hear your warnings, but you want them to hear how much you're proud of them. But you have to listen. And then how do you get them to listen to you? Because you do want to protect them. I mean, as much as you want them to evolve and everything and emerge on their own and have their life, you also want them to hear you when you're concerned and take you seriously and that kind of stuff. So that's a very important thing for growing up children.
And that seems like a huge part of the parent training. So at least something that it brings, it will help your communication. Oh,
so true, Tyler. You nailed it, because I feel that I use it, those skills that I developed because of that book and because of reading Chaim Gnat. I learned to talk to people in a different way that was more effective, that got the things that I wanted, and I want things for the good. I want things altruistically, but you do want people to, you want to learn how to negotiate and how to get what you want out of life by saying it with the right words,
And in my own experience, I coached gymnastics and parkour for about 10 years.
You did.
So I worked with kids for a long time, and with speaking to children, you learn a lot about communication itself. And one of the things I did with my students is you speak to them in what's called the zone of proximal development. So you speak to them at kind of a higher level than where they're at right now, and then they will pull themselves up to the level that you're speaking at. So it's constantly kind of teaching them to be better communicators by not kind of always communicating to them at their level, but communicating to them at the level above, so they kind of keep climbing up.
Oh, that's so important when you want to make a really big point, or you're kind of like annoyed or something. You can use like 4-syllable words, and it really gets their attention, seriously.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. And if you just want to get their attention when you're not angry at everything, try singing. Singing is very, very useful.
Singing at them?
Well, if you make anything you're saying into a song.
Yeah.
Just, I really want you to get dressed and put your shoes and socks on. Just turn it into something, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Be creative And then they know that you're not mad, but it gets their attention. I'm just saying.
It makes it fun, Yes,
and also try to make it fun.
When I was a teacher, I would try to be as funny as possible. Funny Mr. Tyler, because I knew that if they were laughing at me, they were paying attention to me. So
that's so true,
So
Tyler.
when you're humorous, it's just a way, when you have kids, you learn how to manage attention.
Yes.
And kids have such short attention spans that you have to do whatever you can to kind of get them to focus.
Well, I think doing that for 10 years it really made you a very fine communicator, and this is why you're here.
You.
So I'm so grateful for that. That's really good.
Well, Allyson, is there any other kind of final words you can give to someone who is an artist and considering becoming a parent?
Well, the one thing I didn't finish saying before was that the first 3 years are very demanding physically, but at 3, they generally are potty trained and can pull up their own drawers. So then they learn to dress themselves, which within by the time they're 4, they're in school, they put their own coat on, they dressing themselves. So then you are starting to get more freedom. And by that point, they're in school part of the time, and then you have more freedom. So that just gives you, everybody knows this, but just get a sense of, with the time that you're giving up and that powerful time of physical dependence is lessons. And then by the time they're 7, they can put their own seatbelt on and close the door of the car. And then you just have to drive them places for a while. It's all fit into your life. You fit it all into your life. But let me just say this, that as the physical dependence diminishes, the psychological dependence accelerates, so that you have to think of ways that you can have them listen to you and have them, be safe. And how do you talk to them so that they will listen? And how do you listen to them so they will talk to you? Because you don't want them not to talk to you when the bad stuff happens. Let me just tell you this right now. And you want them to talk to you especially when they're in trouble. So how do you make sure that they don't hide that stuff from you? And that is by never going ballistic when bad stuff happens. Okay, because they will learn right off the bat not to talk to you when bad stuff happens. I'm just telling you, it's a great practice. It's an incredible teaching. You can't go ballistic when bad stuff happens. You have to be extremely stony and rocky and listen a lot and then advise. And they will be impressed because they thought you were going to go ballistic, right? So they will be impressed. It's a much better way to get their attention. And so I'm just saying the psychological, though, demands get even greater when they're adults. Let me just tell you, it's not less. You become more friends, though, if you're really, really lucky. And that's, I feel so grateful, for, my teachers, my mother, who was a child psychologist for 250 women and girls every summer at camp, and my father, and my husband is always such a great teacher. You see them all around you, but then the great books that are written about it too. It's a fascinating study. Isn't that a Piaget thing about their talking up to?
That's a Piagetian idea.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
These are brilliant things to learn. Bruno Bettelheim talks about, the importance of guilt in parenting, because, there's a certain amount of guilt. We're not talking about shame because, Brene Brown will tell you the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt can be very useful. People have to know when they did something wrong. I'm very disappointed in you. That's the most that our daughter ever got, because a teacher asked her, how do your parents punish you? And Zena said that my parents don't punish me. And that's true. My parents didn't punish me either. So you don't have to punish. You can turn out just great not punishing. And punishing is usually just causes more anger, upset, and divisiveness, and secretiveness, and sneakiness. It causes everything that you don't want. So I'm just telling you, you basically don't punish. You just be disappointed. And if that's the most that you ever are, if someone brings tears, you never know. They're touched, So anyway, those demands, they're so worth it, though. It's absolutely worth it, everybody. having children, if you have any inkling. But then I gotta say one more thing. If you feel that children are not for you, don't have them, because that won't be good for the children. Have your nieces, have your nephews, be a teacher, be a mentor, have them just for a few hours a week and be a big brother. You know what I mean? Children don't want to be born to people who don't want to have them. So I don't recommend it for everyone. Okay, I'm serious.
Well, Allyson, thank you so much for sharing why being a mother was such a rewarding process for you. I think that this is going to be a really great episode for anyone who is asking themselves these questions or maybe have come to this dilemma in their life. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on
Well, thank you, Tyler. I know your mother is very proud of you.
Yeah, she is.
She
Hi,
is.
Mom.
Hey, there you go. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you so much, Allyson. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Ask Allyson on the CoSM Podcast. If you have a question for Allyson or would like to meet with her for a personal art and life consultation, check out the links in the description to find out more. To stay up to date on any future podcasts or virtual events, be sure to follow CoSM on Facebook and Instagram, and to subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube.